In this lecture, you learn how to design and introduce a system for measuring key performance indicators, or KPI. And you'll also become familiar with the Balanced Scorecard, or BSC. We'll also look at a method for developing strategic maps. We'll take a look at cases from British Airways to Groupon. The KPI system is a means for qualitatively measuring company efficiency in general and each individual employee specifically. The system is introduced and developed at the strategic planning stage. The KPI system reflects both the efficiency of a business in its entirety and individual business processes, structural divisions, and employees. KPI should be measured on a daily basis and, in some circumstances, hourly. If you use the KPI system properly, you are guaranteed success in managing employee efficiency and effectiveness. But management must always keep in mind that KPI has to be supplemented with the development and training of personnel, and not simply as a tool for administrative control. If the KPI system is implemented improperly, strong opposition could arise among employees, and the company itself could suffer. Firstly, let's talk about the KPI system. In order for the KPI system to be successfully introduced and implemented, certain requirements are necessary. Performance can and should be measured and presented quantitatively. For example, the aim of online media could be a 50% increase in traffic in the coming quarter. The KPI, that is, key performance indicators, for this goal could be the number of unique visitors. KPI should be established for a defined professional group and fall within an employee's area of responsibility. For example, the indicator increasing revenues pertains to a cafe manager, not a driver. KPI is unmanageable without somebody who is firmly in charge. Comparability is the second requirement for KPI. If each employee of a call center receives about 100 calls a day and the numbers are distributed at random, then employees can be compared with one another. But if the various sales managers have clients from different business areas with varying average contract sizes and timeframes for closing deals, then they can only be compared with previous periods. The KPI system must also motivate. Introducing the system is a powerful means for motivating personnel. For example, the increasing revenues indicator for a restaurant manager could be directly linked to bonuses. Let's consider what the KPIs might be for a company's marketing director working in the B2B, that is business-to-business segment. These figures can be conveniently separated into three groups: sales growth figures, numbers showing the quality of the company's work with its clients, and marketing campaign indicators. Usually not more than 3 KPIs are selected, with numbers that are subject to continuous audit, evaluation, and control. I suggest these 3 KPIs for the marketing director. First, generating leads, that is, contacts with potential clients. 20 leads per day. In other words, the job of the marketing director is to ensure a constant flow of contacts with new and potential clients for the company with the aim of increasing sales. He can use tools like online marketing, content marketing, special offline tools, and many more. 2. 15 potential responses from clients per month. And 3. Implementing 3 wide-scale promotional events each month involving both the public and the media. Now, let us look at balanced system of BSC, that is, Balanced Scorecard indicators and strategic map methods. This is key. The KPI system has to be developed within the parameters of the company strategy. Only when strategic goals have been set can you start putting together a KPI metric. In determining their strategic goals, many companies make use of the strategic map principle developed by Harvard professors David Norton and Robert Kaplan. The strategic map lists strategy logic and the most important internal processes that create value, while also laying out the non-material assets needed to back them up. The strategic map is usually presented as a diagram or a graph that expresses strategy as a set of strategic goals and successive connections between them. For example, the strategic map for a production company could well look something like this: finances, clients, internal business processes, and HR development. The company's financial aims are maximizing profits, cutting production costs, and boosting sales revenue. Goals associated with servicing clients would include increasing the company's market share in sales, optimizing pricing, gaining new clients, developing product lines, and increasing customer satisfaction. Goals for optimizing internal business processes would include increasing production efficiency, ensuring the highest product quality, boosting new product development effectiveness, and making marketing and advertising more impactful. And finally, HR development's goals would include increasing skill levels and reducing staff turnover. We can see that the strategic maps of major companies can feature as many as 20 goals. Causal relationships on the strategic map are drawn from the bottom up. There are often horizontal relationships in the context of a single perspective. Along with the KPI system, the strategic map is part of the Balanced Scorecard, or BSC, developed by Norton and Kaplan in the late 1990s. The Balanced Scorecard is a company's concept to break down its strategy to the level of operational management and control, and is based on KPI. Simply put, BSC shows all the connections between KPI and operational, financial, and non-financial variables, strategic and operational management levels, and the company's past and future performance. There should be no more than 15 KPIs at the corporate or company level, otherwise attention will be diffused and so will resources and efforts. Also, goals and responsibilities will be blurred and strategic focus blunted. With the BSC, a distinction should be made between indicators that measure goal achievement, specifically KPI, and those that reflect processes that result in the achievement of those goals, that is, operating indicators. For example, in order to achieve a financial stability target, a certain level of productivity has to be reached that reduces ongoing costs and lowers losses. Understanding the BSC system makes it possible to properly construct causal relationships between different company indicators and tie them to key strategic goals. That's why this concept is often called management effectiveness. Having determined strategy, we begin the process of implementing the KPI, I remind you, that is Key Performance Indicator system at the company. Before doing so, ask yourself 3 important questions. What do you want to achieve? How can this be done? And who will do it? At this stage, you should distinguish the company's economic and administrative activities that directly affect success in the achievement of set goals. Obviously, the KPI success factors will be distinct from company to company. For example, in air transport, such factors could be cutting costs and increasing profits, on-time departures and arrivals, retaining customers, and motivating employees. Next, you can start determining key performance indicators. Here you need to bring the KPI in line with company goals. Before taking the next steps, ask yourself if the indicators you have chosen correspond to the necessary characteristics and requirements. For the goal maximizing profits, the key KPI will be increasing the number of customers, average check increases, cutting costs, and so on. Note that another important factor in putting together KPI is tracking an employee's ability to affect the indicators determined for him. By the way, a service company engineer certainly can change an indicator such as percentage of departure reports written no later than 1 day from the visit date, because he himself writes these reports. After you work out the key performance indicators, the next step can begin: the creation of the KPI system. At this step, it is extremely important to evaluate just how much a given index is needed. Who will be responsible for it? Do all the indicators line up in a harmonious system without contradicting each other? The KPI number cutting costs will likely run counter to the objective of increasing the advertising budget to gain audience. You should develop an incentive system for those responsible for the indicators. The final step is preparing to introduce the system at the company. You have an important task here: setting on a technical solution to create all the necessary conditions for implementing the strategy. You should ensure that information is accessible to everyone involved in carrying it out and create the necessary level of information transparency within the company. Also, it's important to regularly revise the KPI measurements, otherwise the system's success will be reduced to naught. For example, the company Groupon uses the service Salesforce to track sales manager KPIs. The target is set at 4 signed contracts per week. Following the latest contract signing, the manager changes that client status to signed and attaches the very text of the agreement to make the job easier for the other divisions. The head of the sales group and his colleagues will see the changes in the KPIs. Monitoring and reporting on the KPI system should be automated. You should remember that the efficiency of the evaluation system depends on it being kept up to date. All changes that take place within an organization have to be reflected in it in full and in a timely fashion. So, when developing KPIs, you need to set up a system that allows for flexible change and ensure that there is method for keeping the KPI system up to date. So, for a KPI system to be implemented successfully at the company, there has to be an automated system, a pilot space for employees to test KPI measurements, and from the very start, employees should have online access to current measurements, which should provide the opportunity to initiate a process of self-motivation. That is, my indicator is going down, I could be falling in efficiency, I have to correct the situation immediately. As an example of introducing a KPI system at the company level, let's take a look at British Airways. In the 1980s, a director at British Airways attempted to improve the company's operations with the help of a single KPI. Regardless of where he was quickly notified when a company flight was delayed for any reason. Each British Airways manager at the airport involved was sure that if the delay exceeded acceptable limits, the director himself would be calling with questions. Not a lot of time passed before British Airways acquired the reputation of being a company whose flights departed strictly according to schedule. This simple and results-oriented approach will increase employee efficiency and certainly increase company profits. So, we have now looked at the KPI system and its introduction in a company. Let's quickly review the main points. KPI, or Key Performance Indicators, is a selection of indicators that reflect the most important aspects of company operations for success both now and in the future. There should be no more than 15 KPIs at the corporate or company level for a major business. Otherwise, strategic focus will be impaired. Establishing causal relationships between different company indicators and bringing them in line with strategic goals helps to balance the system. Introducing the KPI system is a multi-step process that encompasses all levels at an organization. It's important that a manager who will be introducing KPI keeps in mind the necessity of regularly monitoring and analyzing key performance indicators and adjusting them if needed.